Installing crown molding. Crown molding adds both texture and character to a room while acting as a decorative border to your decor. Before you start, determine the quantity of molding you'll need. Calculate the length of each wall and add 12 to 24 inches for each wall to account for losses resulting from angle cuts. For an easier installation, you can use interior or exterior crown corners. Store the crown molding in the room where they'll be installed for 24 to 48 hours so they can acclimate to the room's temperature. Here's the list of tools and materials for this project. Although installing crown molding with the coped joint technique takes patience and skill, the result is more professional. With this technique, the end of a molding in one corner fits perfectly around the molding already installed. To achieve this, the molding is cut using the opposite angle of the molding already installed. The spring angle is the angle from the wall to the back of the crown molding. In most cases, it's 45 degrees. Off the end of a long molding piece, cut a small piece of crown molding and place it against the fence of the Mitre saw with the finished side out. The long side of the pattern should be facing down. Mark the saw fence and table. This will act as a cutting guide for the spring angle. Measure the distance between the saw fence and the mark on the table saw, then cut a scrap piece of wood with this measurement. Place the scrap piece against the ceiling and make a pencil mark below it. This mark indicates the lower edge of the crown molding. Make more marks around the room. With a level, verify that the marks are level and adjust accordingly. Measure the walls from corner to corner and write the distance on the top of each wall to 1/32 of an inch. Below, mark the location of the studs. The first piece of crown molding is squared on each end. Cut it to the dimensions marked on the top of the wall. Push corners in place and align them on the marks. Nail the bottom of the molding with a brad power nailer over the stud marks. Then, nail on the ceiling. Leave 2 feet unnailed on each end of the molding. Lay the second molding along the wall below the first molding. At the end of the second molding, draw a line to the angle of the first one. Cut at a 45-degree angle along the pencil line. Using a coping saw, cut the excess at a slight angle along the line. This is called a coped joint. Adjust and fit the coped joint to the first molding. Use a round file if necessary. Nail the molding on the wall and on the ceiling. To splice 2 moldings, position both moldings as they will be on the wall. Find the stud near the intended splice point and mark it. Then, cope the end of the molding that will butt against the wall on your right. Measure 3/4 of an inch past the stud intended for the scarf joint, then mark the other end of the piece. Set the saw for a 45-degree angle and cut the molding. Nail it to the wall and to the ceiling. Measure the second molding up to the backside bevel of the first piece. This is the shortest part, or ceiling side, of the first cut. Cut this molding. Measure back and cut the other end square. Push the 2 angled ends together and nail the joint. Then push the squared end into place. Measure, cut, cope, and position the molding for the last wall. To cut a molding for an outside corner, place a protractor on the corner to check the angle. Set the coped end in the inside corner and mark the outside corner. Then, set the saw to 45 degrees and cut. If the wall's corner angle is not square, use the angle measured just before with the protractor. Nail the molding on the wall and on the ceiling. Cut the molding placed on the left and nail it in place. If it hasn't been done, apply primer to the moldings. Fill small cracks in the corners and between the molding and wall with paintable caulking. Wipe off excess with a damp cloth. Finally, paint the moldings. For more advice on molding installation, visit rona.ca.